Hello and welcome to the Practical Leadership Podcast, where I interview great leaders and try to extract their wisdom and experience for you to learn from and hopefully avoid making their mistakes. Check out practical-leadership.academy because you want to help your new managers succeed with hybrid or remote working. Michiel Schipperus, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you are currently the CEO of eCommerce. You've been in B2B e-commerce for about 20 odd years. eCommerce is from 2007, about 15 years on.
Yeah.
And you're busy leading the team of about 500 people in goodness knows how many countries, except that you're not, because you're on sabbatical.
Exactly.
What's that all about?
Yeah.
How do you go about taking a holiday? A what? A sabbatical? What does that mean?
Yeah, good question. I asked myself about a year ago the question, like, how long do I still want to be the CEO of Sana? And the answer that came to me said, hey, let's do it one more year and then find someone to take over. So I've been basically with the same company for 23 years. So I started when I was just 18 years old at this company, and that eventually transitioned into eCommerce. And that, I've been running that company for let's say 12, 13 years or something. So I felt I needed a break. So here I am.
Fabulous. Do you have any exciting plans? What are you doing?
No, not yet. It's only week 3. So I said I'm not making any plans. I would just keep my calendar open and just see what happens. Well, I will be doing some traveling with my family, so I'm really looking forward to that after summer, I think. So, but until that time, I'll just keep things open.
That's marvelous. I mean, it's a wonderful example as well. We can all aspire to that.
So, I think so. Yeah, I think it's good for founders, CEOs who have been running the business for a long time to take a break. And actually, I was interviewing for my successor, and I spoke to multiple great candidates, and they confirmed for me actually it was very good, not just for me, but also for the company to bring in someone new with fresh energy, fresh ideas, who has been exposed to a lot of different companies. So I felt more and more confident about taking this step, not just for myself, but also for the business.
There's an interesting edge to that. I mean, I work with lots of different startups, and I've had the pleasure, the challenge, the interest of working directly for quite a few entrepreneurial CEOs, people that almost like yourself have been brought up in the one company. So they're 22 out of business school, start a company, and they've never been brought up properly. They've never been told or taught how you can and cannot manage people. And typically they're absolutely shit at it. And they bring me in to be the guardian angel around their teams and stop them. It's not abusing their teams. That's horrible. These wonderful people I've worked with, but it's to help them to temper their approach and to sort of tone that down. But you've been working in Sana and its predecessors 23 years. Your journey to being a people manager is quite interesting, because the first person who gave you that job was a very interesting person with great experience himself, and you must have learned a lot. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, sure. So I started working for this company when I was just 18 years old, and there was this company was like 30 people, was in the midst of the .com bubble. The person that brought me in was the founder of the business. His name is Jan Jager, and he hired me, and from day one he gave me a lot of responsibility. Even though I was just working there part-time, like 2 days a week, he was giving me a lot of responsibility and just letting me find out what I couldn't do. A lot of freedom there. And so for 6 years I studied at the university here in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and in these 6 years I also had this part-time job, and I had him as my mentor. And the interesting thing happened when so I worked for 6 years as a part-time job. Then in 2005 I graduated, And after being 2 years in a full-time job for the same company, he left and he went into politics. So he became the state secretary of finance in the Netherlands. He later became on the minister of finance in the Netherlands. He became the CFO of KPN, the largest telco in the Netherlands. He was already someone with a lot of talent, a lot of knowledge, experience, and he really taught me a lot from day one. And he really allowed me to make a lot of mistakes throughout these years, but he was always pushing me. He said, if you just give it a try, right? Just go for it. And even if I thought in some cases like, hey, but this is not something that I think I can do, he said, well, just give it a try and see how it goes. And in many situations, it went actually quite well. So, for instance, I recall that one time, I think I worked for the company just like 2 years. So I was 20 years old. I was working there part-time, and there was a team of system administrators, and their manager left. They left the company. So the team was out without a manager, and Jan Kees felt none of the people on the team was able to manage that team. So at some point he said, Michiel, can you maybe take over the team? And I thought he was joking. I really thought, because like I said, I was just working part-time, just 2 days a week. And this was a team of full-time people, very experienced system administrators. And I had no experience in system administration. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. So that's what I did for, I think, about a year or something, until we hired externally a manager for the team. I managed that team, and I learned a lot, and it went pretty well, I must say.
Have you ever put anybody else in a similar position?
Yes. It's for me, like I enjoyed this so much that I have made that part of my management practice to, how do you say that? Throw people in on the deep end. Is that how you say it? Like,
Yeah, totally.
and let's see how to go. And
head
at first.
Sink or swim.
And I've done it multiple times, where people got a lot of experience because I felt they were up for it. They were capable of doing it. Even in some cases, they didn't know that themselves. I remember a couple of years ago, we were building a new product basically within the SoundCommerce team. I had also someone just doing the research, what that product should actually be. And then when the research was done, I asked him like, hey, why could you please build a product, basically, build your team, and together with the team, build a product, and you lead that team. And he was like, yeah, do you think I can do that? I said, yes, I think so. And if not, we'll find out as well, and we'll try to help you. And what's the worst that can happen? I think that's one of the fun things and great things of being a startup scale up, that you can fail fast and you can do a lot of these things. And even if things go wrong, they will not have a huge impact on on a lot of people or on the business. So you can still do those kind of things.
I think one of the most powerful things you can hear from anyone, especially your manager, is, I believe you can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also one of the things I've learned. And it's not just with pushing people to go beyond what they think themselves they can do. It's also, if you give them something to live up to, something you see in them, in general, they will start to believe in it themselves, and they want to live up to that expectations, right? So if I tell someone like, hey, I think you're a great manager, and they'll start to think about themselves like, hey, maybe I am a great manager. I want to be a great manager. I want to live up to the expectation of you that I am a great manager, right? So it's it works in multiple ways, but I've seen it work so well. And some of the most senior managers that we have in our company, they really started also when they were still in school, or when they just finished school, and they got responsibility early on, and they enjoyed it a lot, and they excelled at it, and they grew throughout the ranks. So there are a lot of examples of that in our business. You could say that everything started with me getting in that position when I was just 18 years old and working part-time, and being pushed out of my comfort zone. And I've always felt that I want to pay that forward.
So you've carried that almost as the red thread. It's taking talent where you find it and making them work harder than they thought they could.
Yeah, not just harder, because that might have a negative
Yes,
connotation,
yes.
but giving them more
Outslightly.
challenge. You like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly. Like really challenging them, and to be honest, it doesn't. It's not that it always works, right? Also have examples where people came after me, like after, let's say, a couple of months, half a year, maybe a year, say, it's overwhelming. I don't feel this is the right environment for me. I would like to have more structure. I need somebody who will give me a plan on this. This is step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's maybe the downside of my management style. So I like to push people, give them a lot of responsibility. Of course, coach them, but in the end, I need people around me that are kind of self-starter, that don't need me to create or lay out this roadmap for them on the different steps that they need to take. And I've also had people come to me and say, hey, this is not for me. I'm looking for a company with more structure and somebody who does a little bit more handholding, and that's fine. So it's not only only a great story of successes, to be honest.
There's it's something that the special forces use sometimes as well, and I've read a few books about this, and it's that they tell the teams that they are elite. You are an elite team, and exactly as you said, they
You
then
want to live up to
begin
that.
to live up to the reputation. There's nothing like living up to your reputation to stretch you. And
Yeah.
equally, I think I had some great advice once, was try and find 20% of your time. That's something I do when I coach and consult people, is always try and find 20% of your time extra. And you find it by delegating. So
Yeah.
it's delegating stuff that should be delegated, which is stuff that you shouldn't be doing and somebody else could do better.
Yeah.
And stuff that could be delegated, that would challenge somebody else to help them to grow. And then finding that balance for yourself is how much is too much. And the advice I got was, if you are not sitting on the edge of your seat going, holy crap, I'm a bit worried about this, then it's not enough. If you're not uncomfortable with the power that you've delegated, with the tasks that you've delegated, and it's like Ronald Reagan's thing, you trust, you verify, but you trust.
Do you mean on the giving? Do you mean on the giving end that you're on the edge of your seat, or on the receiving end? Yeah, both. Yeah, no, I would say the same. I would say the same. Like indeed, you will just if you think it's possible, delegate, and then, but also, like you say, check in and make sure that if things go completely off the rails, that you can manage that. But so yes, if you can delegate. But also on the receiving end, what I like is, I think we say it in Dutch, is you have to walk on your toes, stand on your toes to make it happen, right? And there are multiple effects. I think people grow faster, especially the people that like to have a lot of challenges. They grow faster. But they're also more likely to stick around, in my experience. So also now for my successor, I had multiple options. And one option was maybe very experienced, and this person could easily do the job. But then I would be wondering, like, after 1, 2, 3 years, will this person still be engaged and challenged by the job, right? And on the other hand, I had someone who didn't have this exact position before, but I thought that this person could do it. And then I know if he or she takes this role and has to, stand on their toes, like I'm saying, or have to sit at their edge of their seat, like you're saying, they're more likely, I think, to enjoy the journey and to stay around.
I think that's a big part of the idea of the tour of duty. So when you're hiring people, you're not hiring anyone for a job for life, apart from you.
Yeah.
Nobody gets hired for a job for life.
Yeah.
And
half
honestly,
a life. Yeah.
Half a life. There you go. Well, you're on sabbatical now. Retirement's next, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe not. But I mean, there's an entirely different conversation about maybe we should go back to hiring jobs for life. Maybe we should. Organizations shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm going to sell and exit in 3 years, I'm done. Boom.
Yeah.
No.
I don't like that either. And I like the concept of the tour of duty. I read the book from the LinkedIn founder that wrote about tour of duties, indeed. Yeah. And I think it's a good concept. And that's also what we always try to do with hiring, at least to align on, okay, what's our horizon, right? Is it 3 years, 4, 5 years? But Yeah, of course, it's maybe a candidate during the interview process will say, I'm looking for 3 to 4 or 5 years. But then if something else comes by, some people are more likely to jump ship. So it's a hard part. But I like the whole concept of that.
Mm.
But and indeed, like he writes in the book, it has to come both ways, right? Yeah, you have to mutually agree on that and that term and make it work and make sure that this person it will continue to grow within this specific time that is set for the tour of duty.
I think if you're recognizing honestly with somebody that it's going to take you a year to get, well, basically to find out where the coffee machine is. It's going to take you year 2 is where I want you to really make an impact. 3 is you are sailing, and 3 and 4 is where you're preparing for the next role. And 4 onwards, ideally it's in a new role within the company, but if it's not, then bless you, may the wind be fair at your back, and good luck.
Agree, fully agree. And I'm always so, how do you say that? I don't believe the people that send resumes and they say, I worked for 1.5 years and make this impact and I did this. And I don't believe that. It's just like what you're saying. I've never seen anyone make so much or a lot of impact or within 1.5 years. Like you said, it takes time to build things up, to get to know the company, to build your team, to get things running, and then to really see the results of that. So yeah, I agree. I think that concept works, but it's hard. It's not easy to find the people that have that mindset. And if you scan through resumes and you see how many of those consist of 10 years of like 1.5, 2.5 max years, if you have to filter them all out, there are a few candidates left, to be honest.
It's a challenge. I mean, on one hand, you see a lot of younger people now with the 18-month tenures in different roles. And part of me says, well, that's 18 months not found out, right? You've been there for 18 months, and after 12 months, they said, you're not quite right. We're going to give you a chance. 3 months then, we really need to double down. 3 months after that, good night, goodbye. It's really hard not to look at it like that. Maybe it's my age and background and whatever, but
I agree.
It's hard.
No, I agree. It's but it's how it works. But it makes it tough to of course grow a business because people that are leaving after 18 months have not contributed a lot. So only costing time and money.
Yeah, and they take all of that institutional knowledge with them that they've gathered over 18 months. They're only just beginning
and the relationships they have built inside, outside the company, they're all
trust.
The
whole thing. Yeah. If we go back to your idea of you're picking people to push, how do you? And I'm looking for the how-to here, right?
Yeah.
How do you pick? What's the sort of characteristics you're looking for when you're looking to choose someone to promote, to push, to?
It's I don't think it's new, but I want people to learning mindset. So what we always do in the interview process, and I would recommend any company to do, is to include at least one part. We call it a business case. So it depends on what kind of role you will be in. We ask you to prepare something, and if you are like in sales, we will do a role play as a business case. If you're in I don't know, in a more strategic role, we'll give you a more strategic assignment that you have to go through. And then we want to see how you actually perform in that specific situation. And that's very relevant. And sometimes we have great candidates, we think, in the early stage, and we're like, wow, this is the best candidate ever. And then they totally mess up the business case. And we're so happy that we had that as part of the interview process. But in relation to your question, it's even just as relevant to see how they deal with feedback. So, of course, after they did the business case, we'll tell them like, hey, this went well, and how they respond tells us a lot about their learning mindset. Are they like eager to learn more about the feedback? How are they taking it? Or do they become defensive? And that tells us a lot because, and typically, of course, we hire the people that are very open to feedback, to want to get to know, want to improve, that are happy to get the feedback. And in relation to your question, if you want to put people in a position where they have, they get a lot more, get a lot of responsibility compared to the experience they have had before, you want them to be coachable. and you want them to get feedback not just from their manager but also from their peers. So to have that mindset to not just listen to managers but also listen to peers and to people in their teams, and to be looking for that feedback to improve their game, that's absolutely crucial, I think, for putting people in such or pushing people outside of their comfort zones.
So you use the information you've had, the knowledge you've gained through the original recruitment process, and then everything you've seen about them during their tenure up to that point. So,
well, if they don't deal with feedback in the right way during the business case process, we don't hire them.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the ways to get people in, bring people into the company that have this learning mindset. And that even if they're in a job that it's hard for them, that they're challenged, that they will fail at certain points, they will quickly gather the feedback from the people around them to improve. And that's how they can perform or quickly adapt to the new situation and learn and grow.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like taking on a team or beginning to be a manager for doubling your workload, and yes, having to learn.
And then it's key if your manager tells you like, hey, you need to get better at delegating, or and not to be defensive or not feel like, oh, I'm not performing well, but to grab that with both hands, say, hey, that's great information, I want to learn, please tell me more. How can I delegate more? And that makes all the difference, especially if you're early in your career.
And was it hiring the right person eliminates 85% of your people problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those are, of course, there's so many people who tell this story, and but I can say myself, it's absolutely. And that's also why it makes sense to spend more time in the hiring process to be, well, not 100% sure, you will never be. I've hired maybe 1,000 people, maybe more in my tenure, and I still, even in my last years, I've done mishires. So, but in general, to spend more time to be more certain about a hire definitely pays off, especially if they're in a manager position. And we had someone, for people that we hired as managers or that we promoted internally as managers, we had an internal business coach, someone that we really trust to make that assessment. And every time we didn't listen to her, we regretted it. Because this is so key. And indeed, if you hire the right people, resolve 85% of your people problem. Well, those people problems, if you hire the wrong manager, will be 5 to 10 times bigger, because you'll have problems with all the people that are in his or her team, and also in the future, in the new people that he or she will hire. So we have had that before, and the manager was gone and the team was there, but then also the team wasn't good. So we were
a mess now.
We had this heritage that we need to deal with. So if you want to scale a company, you need to bring the right people on board, but especially the right managers.
It's I think learning to hire well is a great skill, but like you, I mean, I've made any number of mishires. I mean, I'm terrible about falling in love with people.
Yeah. Love at first sight. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. It's wonderful. It's totally. Oh my God, what is he doing in the bathroom? And he's doing a line of coke or something. God.
Oh yeah.
That's why I was so excited. Right. Okay.
Energetic. No, that's a good one. But there. So if I could give your audience like 2 very concrete tips, that would be, in the hiring process, do an assessment where you just take something from the day-to-day job and give it to them and let them see how they perform. And second, find someone who you can really trust, internally or externally, to make the judgment, or is this a manager or not? So that's typically more like an HR coaching kind of person that is able to our business coach does that with role playing, to get to also to feel how they will respond to certain situations. And that's those 2 tips I think I would give anyone looking to grow the team.
I totally back them up. I had a wonderful woman called Teresa Wood. And if you're listening, Teresa, how you doing? We should have a cup of tea. Teresa had just the most phenomenal sense of people. She was almost like, she would smell them out and say, no, don't go near them. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah. And and like I said, if you make the mistakes there, you're in trouble. And Yeah. No, it's great to if you have such a person that you can rely on. It's very valuable.
That's great. So, was there an event or was there a mistake that perhaps taught you the most in your career?
Yeah, the most is always putting a lot of pressure, but what I've learned is I am someone who didn't experience a lot of hierarchy before when I was younger. I was, like I said, I was working with Jan Kees when I was just 18 years old, and it always felt like I could go to him for anything and we could joke around and about all sorts of things. But I started to notice as our business was growing that people felt hierarchy. And I don't feel it. I don't see it. I'm not sensitive to it,
That's
but
because
it's
you're the
there.
boss. You're the boss. Of course, you don't feel
Exactly.
it. We don't have any
Exactly.
politics or hierarchy, he says from his
Yeah.
ivory tower on your private jet.
Exactly. And I was, even, for most of the years, I've always been sitting on the same floor with everybody. So there's no cubicles, there's no walls, everybody sitting, but still it's there, right? And that's something that I had to learn. So I could, for instance, be at a Friday afternoon drink in the company, and I could make a joke about someone. Oh, but we're not going to extend your contract anyway. Ha 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 ha. And the person was like also laughing, like ha ha ha. And then the next day or next Monday, sitting with HR and say like, "Am I getting fired?" And I heard that I went up. Yeah, it's a joke. We're just but because you know
No joke.
he felt like it's not that how I felt about it that he felt about it. I think there is many multiple instances, and over time I had to learn how people looked at me in that position, and that I have to be more careful with my words, but also with my actions. And also, one coach once told me, like, everyone in the office knows what you're wearing. I was like, serious? Yeah, everybody knows it because their eyes are on you, right? Even if you don't experience that yourself. So I've become much more aware of my position, how people look at me, more careful with things, not just the jokes, but also with other things, and kind of what you signal. And in addition to that, I've always also in addition to that, I noticed, or I came to learn, that if people come to me with feedback, that they have to go probably over a pretty big hurdle. So one thing I did, I invited people to give feedback, and they said, okay, let's have a meeting. I want to know, or send me an email, whatever comfortable for you, and tell me what you see about, how I perform and what I could do better. So that was helping a bit, but it also, what I learned about it is also that if people comes to me with feedback, it's a big deal for them. And early on, I would say, oh, I had one person I was managing coming to me and say, hey, you always drop new ideas on my plate. When we have our one-on-ones, you always, oh, did you think about that? Did you think about that? Did you think about that, please? And he said, I'm so overwhelmed by that, all those ideas that you have. Could you please stop dropping new ideas every one-on-one? And of course, it was great feedback. And of course, and I stopped doing it. But only later on, I noticed actually what a big deal that was for him. I thought it was something like, hey, we can improve a relationship. Can you please stop doing that? But he was, maybe that's a little bit exaggerated, but on the verge of a burnout, for instance, because I was so overwhelming, and I wasn't aware of it. And second, when I got his feedback, I thought like, hey, on a 10-point scale, this is a 3 to 4 issue, and it was actually an 8 to 9 issue, if in terms of intensity. And I think that's one of the things I learned a lot from, is like, the impact that you're having is a much bigger than you think, and because of the hierarchy that I don't see, but that's there, people will not easily go up to you. So if they take the step to address it with you, it's a much bigger issue, and it deserves that kind of attention. And that was very insightful for me.
Yeah. I mean, trying to build, and you're talking about having the learning mindset there. I mean, trying to build a culture of continuous improvement, which is kind of an RC way of saying basically you always want to get better at everything you do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's coming from the boss, whatever level you are in the boss, but coming from the boss saying, can I have some feedback? how did we do in this? How did this, an after action review for this call, this presentation, this whatever it was, what went well, what would be even better if, and what about me? Nobody ever gives me feedback. Would you give me some, please? And you make a point of it. Because if you do it, they'll do it.
They will do it.
They 100%. Do it, everybody does it.
Yeah,
100%. Right? All of a sudden it becomes normal.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes the sting out of the feedback hurdle it takes to giving your boss feedback. Really? Hey, Michael, when that call you there, you made this really rude joke and it made me embarrassed or whatever it was. And you're thinking, oh, oops.
Yeah. And then how you deal with that is also sends a very strong signal. Exactly. So fully agree. And I think we have succeeded at building that culture of where people want to constantly improve and where people are comfortable with giving each other feedback. But it's something that you need to keep feeding the machine. You need to keep doing that because otherwise you might lose it. You're never done. No, it's never finished. No.
So you're working on a sabbatical right now?
Yeah.
Are you reading? You listening? Are you just chilling out?
Yeah, reading. I had a lot of books that I didn't get to because I always like to read, but there were always new ideas of books that I should read coming in faster than I could process them. But now I'm kind of like, I picked up a couple of books and I'm not sure in which direction my interest goes. So in the past, it would be all about running a business, improving business and getting topics from that. But I'm not sure if that's the mindset I'm in right now. So I picked up a few books and after a couple of chapters, I'm like, maybe later. So I'm still figuring out.
There's I'm going to make 2 recommendations for you, by the way, right?
Good.
But I've got a lovely couple of ideas around books because I'm surrounded by books here, and I live to read and to absorb information and to enjoy it. And you try to take things on board, and you read something and then it goes, "Oh, this is fabulous! It's going to change my life." Straight out.
Yeah.
You've got to capture it and then do something with it, or speak about it, or write 100%. About it. One of these things. You've got to either do something, write about it, or speak about it. That's the thing. There's a lovely Japanese word I believe is correct. I may well be wrong. It's called sonduko. Sonduko is the pile of unread books.
Yeah.
And somebody else introduced me to this concept of fine wine. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like a glass of wine, but you should consider your bookshelf full of unread books in some cases as just the right book, waiting for just the right moment in your life. So you're not going to drink all the wine that comes into your house. Oh my God, I'd be dead. But you want to go to your shelf and pull out just the perfect bottle for the perfect moment. The perfect book.
I like that analogy.
Perfect moment. So you can go and select just the right thing. So I like that. Michael, what would you like to thank young Michael for having done?
Yeah, it brings me back, I think, to what we discussed earlier, to having that learning mindset and that openness to feedback, even if it sometimes hurt a little. Also because, like, for instance, every time when an employee leaves the business, we've always had HR do an interview with him or her and go through the different steps. And it wasn't always easy to read them, especially people are like brutally honest. They were giving us feedback that they normally never gave us. And sometimes it hurted, but it allowed me, I think, to get there, see through their perspective how our company was working and what could be improved. So I'm very happy that I will always continue to read those things, to sometimes speak to those people afterwards. Say, hey, give me the feedback. Can you elaborate on that? To continue to ask for feedback, because because I started doing it, I think when I was rather young, it made me more and more comfortable with it over the years. So yeah, I'm happy that I've done that, because it has, at one hand, I've learned a lot from it, and then the other hand, it has built my habit of continuously looking for feedback and making that part of my routine. That's what I was looking for.
Wonderful. And then lastly, just as we wrap up, where can people find you? Let's say they want to come and work with you, they want to get in touch with you.
LinkedIn. Yeah. So look me up on LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest way to connect.
Great. Michiel Schipperus, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Yeah, it was nice meeting with you. Thanks, Morten. Good luck, Paul. Good luck.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me today. Your homework is to leave your 5-star review, and please, any comments you have, you really help me to improve every day, and it also helps people to discover me online. You should check out practical-leadership.academy because you want to help your new managers succeed with hybrid or remote working.